Hello everyone, it's Candace from Beacon Hill Books. I'm here today for a quick wrap-up of March. March was a surprisingly good reading month for me. I read 12 books. Primarily I read a lot of middle grade. This was easier for me to read. I had a baby in March, and so I didn't expect to be reading quite a lot, but I think overall I had a really great month. When I look at all of the ratings I gave quite a bit of 5 and 4 stars, so that's great. And I'm just going to run quickly through them. I'm not going to talk about them too much except for a few that I'll probably break out into another video. But the first book I read was Night Shadow, which is the second book in the Greatcoat series by Sebastian de Castell. Amazing series, great book. Hope to continue that series in April, and I gave that 5 stars. I finished Jane Steele for Krista from Krista's Book and Jams read monthly book pick, and that was I rated it 4 stars. Probably it's about a 3.5 for me. It is not quite Jane Eyre retelling. I think most of BookTube knows this about this book, but I think what I have found in this book is a new author that I really enjoyed her writing. I gave The Secret Garden 5 stars. I never read it, and I'm very glad that I did read it and will look to read some more of Burnett's books. I gave The Girl Who Drank the Moon 3.5 stars by Kelly Barnhill, which was the middle grade March read pick for the month, which it seems that overwhelmingly most people really, really loved. I gave Claire of the Sea Light by Edwidge Danticat 3 stars. I'm glad that I read this. I saw Mel from Mel's Bookland Adventures really love Crick Crack, which I think to me sounds like it would be more maybe up my alley versus this one, whereas that book seemed to be specifically short stories, and this one, Claire of the Sea Light, was a story about some characters on the island, but what each chapter was from the perspective of one character on the island, and to me that made it feel disjointed. It wasn't short stories. I mean, overall I'm still very glad that I read it. I just didn't find myself wanting to read it and pick it up. So yeah, I did a reread of Harriet the Spy for middle grade March, and I loved this book when I was little, and I hated it as an adult. I thought it was very dated. When I was little, I loved the parts where she was spying and writing in her notebook, and there was a few quotes that I liked and some humor, but overall I don't think it withstands time. I read a NetGalley called The Parking Lot Attendant by Nefkote Tamaret, and just briefly, I rated this 3.5 stars. This is a tricky book to talk about. It's really unlike most books that I've read in the fact that it's kind of broken up, sandwiched between a beginning and an end, where you don't know the narrator's name and you don't really know where she is. But this narrator in the middle is in Boston, and it really centers around the Ethiopian community in Boston. So that's what initially intrigued me about this. And it's kind of a coming-of-age story. This girl who has a disjointed family life, her mom doesn't live with her and her dad isn't able to really parent her like he wants to. And she kind of runs into the, let's call so-called mafia king of the Ethiopian community, who happens to be the parking lot attendant. His name is Ayel, and she puts him on this pedestal, and I think kind of treats him as, as a father in a way, but she doesn't quite understand what he is and does and what he represents, and so she ends up kind of unknowingly, but knowingly doing things that she shouldn't, and from there the story, I don't want to spoil, but I really enjoyed the writing in the middle part. The end was, I liked it because it was unpredictable, but I don't know that I like the an aspect of it. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to spoil it, but I'd be interested to know what other people think if they've read it. I saw this book on Rincey's Ready, Set, Hold, and I hadn't heard of it, so maybe other people have picked it up. I read Anne of Green Gables and gave that 5 stars. I really loved that and will be continuing the series. I read Grace by Paul Lynch for the Walter Scott long list was announced, and so of course, I love historical fiction, and I wanted to read about that. So I'm going to do another video about these historical fiction reads, but I gave that about a 2.5. I read Sugar Money, which was a NetGalley. I think it's out in the UK. I'm not sure if it's released yet in the US or not, by Jane Harris, and I gave that 4 stars. I liked that book quite a lot. I read A NetGalley of Island of the Mad by Lori R. King. And this book it's great. I think, this book, Lori R. King always has historical aspects and a mystery, and those are things that I love. And in this case, we follow Mary and Sherlock. They are trying to find Mary's friend's aunt who has disappeared, and normally her friend is in a asylum, but she was let out for a party. She's generally good behavior, older woman, and she disappears. And so her friend asks Mary to help her. They figure out she ends up going to Venice. This isn't a spoiler. It's kind of on the cover. And at this time, this is around 1925, there's also the Mussolini's black shirts going on and patrolling the island. So Sherlock is not only helping Mary with her friend's mystery, but he's kind of looking at stuff that Mycroft has asked him to about the black shirts. Also, the historical figure in this book is Cole Porter, which I thought was really cool. He's a jazz pianist. And it had a little bit to do with asylums and, I guess, women's rights and histories in a way. Not in terms of the suffrage unit, but just like their rights in terms of their decisions in their families and things. This was the most anticipated book that I didn't know that was out. I loved this series, and I didn't even know that she was continuing it. They're always quick chapters, and you don't have to read the whole series to read this book. So I recommend it if you like that sort of thing. And the last one I read was The Last Man in Europe by Dennis Glover, which is also longlisted for Walter Scott. I gave that 5 stars as well. So that's a big catch up for you. Things are going well. I'm just not able to post as much as I like because we got the little one. But I've been really enjoying the books that I've been reading, and I hope to continue that in April. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.